Congressman Devin Nunes represents California. Of course, he sits on the Intel Committee in the House, and we're happy to have him tonight. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on. What do you make of this?
I think it's frustrating. The American people are sick and tired of the Clinton White House or Hillary Clinton. She didn't get prosecuted, even though she had those classified emails on her server. And look, I give kudos to Judicial Watch. They've been tough. They've stayed on this. And that's what we have to do in this town. If these people just don't lie down, they don't go away. You have to fight them every single step of the way. It's what you have to do. And 6 years, the way I understand it, I just saw Tom Fitton here in the Fox studio, and he said that she should be deposed in about 75 days, within 75 days. And look, this has been going on since 2012. I mean, it's been a while.
Interesting. Okay, thank you for that. Now, you filed your own suit against the Washington Post, which was a daily newspaper now owned by the world's richest man, as a kind of vanity publication. Why are you suing them? On what grounds?
Well, it's funny you say that, right? Like, this is the world's richest man. I call it his glamour project. He wants to promote his company here in the nation's capital. I get that. But it's not okay to slander and defame me. And if you may remember, when the Russia hoax was resurrected again just a couple weeks ago before we went into the coronavirus issue, we were talking about Russia again. And they brought me into this. They claimed that I had went to the White House, that I had talked to the president, that I got the acting director of the National Intelligence fired. Well, there's a problem with the story, Tucker. I never spoke to the president. I never spoke to the president about McGuire. In fact, the day that they claim that I supposedly went to the White House, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so, so we filed today in federal court. My guess is that Bezos, who has billions, he'll hire an army of lawyers, and his people won't be held accountable. And we have to, as Republicans, start to fight back against this fake news. You just can't take something and make it up out of whole cloth. Okay, when I was in another state, for God's sakes, I never talked to the president. This is easy to prove. And what will happen, I promise you, is they'll hide. They'll hide from the federal judge, and the judge will have to get them to come in.
Can I say, this is a broader, more philosophical question, but I think it's important. Why do the rest of us play along in pretending the Washington Post is like a newspaper? It's a news organization. They're covering the news when it's one man's propaganda operation. Why don't we just say that?
Well, look, I do, right? So I don't talk to the Washington Post, and I advise all my colleagues not to talk to the Washington Post. And look, I think one of the things here, and this is actually in my lawsuit, is that you took them to task, actually. So the reporter that wrote this is a true Russia hoaxer. And you showed that on your show, I think a few months ago, that they are used to. They continually talked about there was no FISA abuse. The dossier wasn't used to get a FISA warrant. They were wrong. They never corrected that. And so I think that's part of what you're seeing here is that I've continued to hold these media companies accountable, and they don't like it. And so then they just think it's funny to throw me into their fake news stories, and I'm not going to stand for it. That's why, I urge everybody. I've created defendusa.com so that if you're out there and you believe that we should be fighting, you can go there and join the fight.
So the world's richest man owns the local newspaper in the world's most powerful city, but nobody thinks that's a problem? Nobody thinks that's undue concentration of power? Nobody thinks that maybe Jeff Bezos has an agenda, which he so obviously does? I mean, it's a little weird that we don't say that out loud, but I agree with you. It's not worth reading. It's garbage. They're liars.
And so I'm saying it in federal court, Tucker. I mean, that's exactly what I say in federal court today.
Well, you should. It's garbage. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.